How did Isiah Pacheco go from unknown and nearly undrafted to starting in the Super Bowl as a rookie? Isiah Pacheco was born and raised in Vineland, New Jersey, where he would attend Vineland High School. At Vineland High School, Isiah Pacheco would play all 4 years, including as a freshman for varsity. He was a very versatile player. He didn't only play running back, he actually also played quarterback and defensive back. But as you can tell, as he is a running back in the NFL currently, running back in high school was his main position and what he was best at. And that would be evident by the fact that he was given 77 rush attempts as a freshman playing on varsity. He would rush for over 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. And when he was in high school, every single season his volume increased. He was given over 100 carries as a sophomore for the first time in his career, compared to 77 rush attempts as a freshman, but he had less yards. He rushed for under 300 yards as a sophomore, but luckily he would break out as a junior, rushing the ball over 120 times for over 1,100 yards, his first time breaking 1,000 yards, and he had an insane 16 touchdowns. He would only get better in his senior year, and if you thought 16 touchdowns as a junior was crazy, he rushed for 18 touchdowns as a senior, and he rushed for his high school career best over 1,400 yards. He wasn't a great quarterback, granted he never passed the ball more than 50 times in a single season, but he still had a really bad 49% completion percentage, and he only threw for 2 more touchdowns than interceptions. That is not a great ratio. He was a better defensive back than a quarterback. He had 8 interceptions throughout his high school career, and he had 61 total tackles. But what makes his high school career so impressive isn't the fact that he was a captain for all 4 years on varsity or his impressive rushing stats, but rather the fact that he had to overcome so much hardship and adversity to get to where he was. When he was just 16 years old, his brother was fatally stabbed, and just 1 year later, his sister was shot and killed. His older siblings were role models to him, and as you could guess, their loss left a deep and lasting impact on his life. For a lot of people, this can tear their life apart and lead them down a dark path, but for Isiah Pacheco, it did the exact opposite, and he used it as motivation to push him to work and run harder. Despite his impressive stats and his relentlessness, Isiah was only ranked the 30th best running back in his class, and he was ranked 656 overall, being a 3-star recruit. Due to this, Isiah was not recruited by any of the top schools, and he wanted to stay close to home, so he chose to play for Rutgers, where he would play in 11 games as a freshman, rushing for over 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. Throughout the rest of his college career, he racked up over 1,900 rushing yards and 16 touchdowns in 32 games for the Scarlet Knights, and he finished 11th in all-time all-purpose yards for the Scarlet Knights. Isiah's best year at Rutgers was his sophomore season, where he had a collegiate career high 7 rushing touchdowns and 729 yards. Pacheco's college stats did not jump off the charts by any means, but he still shined at the combine. He ran the fastest 40-yard dash out of all the running backs in his class, but even through his impressive combine performance, Pacheco would not be considered one of the top running backs in the 2022 draft class. Guys like Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker were drafted in front of him. 250 draft picks went by before Pacheco would finally hear his name. In the 7th round, he got a call from the Chiefs, and they were selecting him with the 251st overall pick. This was a massive moment for Isiah, but he still had a huge uphill battle ahead of him if he wanted to see the field. Isiah started the preseason 4th on the running backs depth chart, behind guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon, and Ronald Jones II. In the first 2 preseason games, he would only rush the ball 6 times for 14 yards, but in his 3rd preseason game against the Green Bay Packers, he impressed the coaching staff. He ran the ball 10 times for 52 yards and 5.2 yards per carry, ultimately leading him to making the 53-man roster for the season. However, he would still start the season as the running back 3, and in week 1 he got 12 carries for over 60 yards and a touchdown. And this is an impressive game for a rookie in the 7th round in week 1, his NFL debut. You would think that this would earn him more playing time, but for some reason his volume fell off a cliff. He only had 1 other week with double-digit carries all the way up until week 10, including a game in week 5 against Las Vegas where he only ran the ball 1 time. This is pretty strange considering they gave him 12 rush attempts his first week and in his NFL debut, especially when you consider the fact that he played good in that NFL debut. But in week 10 against Jacksonville, Pacheco showed you what he was really capable of doing. He ran the ball efficiently 16 times for over 80 yards, and he never looked back. From week 10 to 15, he had 13 or more carries each week, including a game in week 11 where he had his first 100-yard game on 7.1 yards per carry. This man was insanely productive. But in preparation for the playoffs, the last few weeks of the season, he had a decreased workload, and in the first round of the playoffs, the Chiefs were the best team in the AFC, so they had a bye week. So Isiah Pacheco's playoff debut would start in the divisional round where he would face off against the Jaguars, and Isiah Pacheco shined. He had his best playoff performance, rushing for nearly 100 yards, 95 to be exact, on almost 8 yards per carry. This is where his efficiency was showing. 8 yards per carry is just ridiculously efficient. But things would kind of take a turn the following week as Isiah Pacheco struggled heavily against the Cincinnati Bengals. In the AFC Championship, he put up only 26 yards on 10 carries. He went from nearly 8 yards per carry to 2.6 yards per carry, a massive drop off in efficiency right there. But luckily, the Chiefs were still able to squeeze out the victory and make it to the Super Bowl. And Pacheco was not going to let himself have another performance like that, and he showed it by having an incredible bounce back game in the biggest game of his life. Playing against the Eagles in Super Bowl 57, despite playing on a very slippery field, honestly the worst field in Super Bowl history, he still ran the ball 15 times for 76 yards and a touchdown to open the second half of the Super Bowl, helping the Chiefs capture another Lombardi trophy and maybe being a part of a dynasty. It is rare for a 7th round pick to see any playing time at all, let alone as a rookie, and then to go from 7th round pick to 4th on the depth chart in the preseason to 3rd on the depth chart in the regular season, seeing nearly no play time in the first 10 weeks of the season, and then being a starter in the Super Bowl in that same season is just unheard of. It just goes to show you his relentlessness and his work ethic, and this season he established himself as one of the better young backs in the NFL with a bright future. It's amazing to see how far he's come and crazy to think that his career is just getting started. And if you guys want to talk sports with me, if you guys want to be in a sports group chat with me, you guys should join my chalkboard. It is basically like a sports version of Discord. I'll be talking sports in there, and I'll also put all my bets on there so you guys can ride them with me if you want. That'll be the second link in the description, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.